Well, good morning, and here is Emily Plunkett,
This is Emily Plunkett.
who is a very sweet rabbit, but with
Absolutely terrified, poor thing.
she has absolutely no history.
She hasn't. This is the first time I've ever met a first-time incarnate soul.
Wow, that is something else.
She's
I've just forgotten something. Hang on, I need to turn my light on. Probably turn my cat off as well, but that'll do. Oh, Emily, you are such a sweetheart.
So she came home to me yesterday. I went down to Dundee and picked her up. And she's very beautiful. She's a lot rabbit, as you can see from the ears that hang downwards. Adjust the camera slightly. And she's lying on me quietly here, being a supervillain rabbit.
And the expression in her eyes is like, oh my God, what's going to happen next?
She's a very, very shy, timid little rabbit. She is getting better. She's actually moving slightly today.
Good.
Yesterday she was just freezing, which is a typical terrified rabbit response.
Yeah.
They were getting a little bit of movement.
Has she eaten?
She has. Overnight, she's had quite a lot of food.
Oh, thank goodness for that.
I'll tell you how that came about. When I brought her home today, I put her in the cage and let her settle.
Yeah.
And she just lurked in the darkest corner and refused to move. So after a while, about 3 hours, I started worrying because rabbits have a very complicated digestive system. And if it stops, it can be impossible to start.
Oh my God.
And then the rabbit dies.
Absolutely.
Gut stasis is a medical emergency for rabbits. And it will stop if they don't eat. They really are designed to eat almost continuously. More than about 8 hours without food, and you will have a very, very sick rabbit. Well, I pushed her out, and I sat her on my knee, and I did the Earth Sun exercise.
Right.
And then I expanded that into the advanced interface.
Right.
If you go on the website, people, you can find those exercises there.
They're in the gold courses.
They're in the gold courses, so sign up and do them. Don't go that way, sweetheart. That's where the dogs are. But what we have here, I'll put her back in the cage a bit in a minute because she's a bit stressed.
But no, we need to see her for a minute.
We do need to see her for a little minute.
Yeah.
Once I'd done the interface, I did some chakra work with her. And this is the first, I found this very disconcerting. This is the first time I have ever interacted with any animal, any non-human animal, who didn't know how to use her chakras.
God.
She had no idea.
Wow.
So I went back to the absolute basics, which is simply to gather up lots of warmth and love and courage in my heart chakra and simply pump it straight into hers.
Yeah.
And then I popped her back in her cage and she sat for a little bit and then disappeared into a hole again. But then after a little while, I just stood next to the cage, perfectly motionless, and kept pushing heart energy to her, direct chakra to chakra. And she came out. And I popped a little dish of water and some chopped grass down for her, because I sprout oats for the rabbit.
Yeah.
So I just popped some of these down. And as I was standing there, I just kept pushing more and more energy towards her. And she was actually taking it. Now, I know you had a little energy balloon waiting for her yesterday as well.
I did.
And it was following her around the cage, dangling its string at her, basically going, sit me. And she didn't know it. She didn't see it was there. She didn't realize it was there. What she did was she went into the corner of the cage where Bunkin used to sit.
Right.
And I was trying to sort of push the corner of the balloon string towards her and go, just take this. And she was like, I don't know what to do with that. And then suddenly another rabbit was there.
This is not a physical rabbit, of course.
This is a physical rabbit. No, this is a spiritual rabbit.
Right.
And in a completely matter-of-fact sort of way, he just went like this and plugged it straight into her. And she sort of sat there in shock for a few seconds. And then she just turned around, looked at me, looked around the cage, and went, okay, I shall explore. And she went all over the entire cage, explored everything, ate the grass, drank the water, came back, ate some hay. All her food has disappeared overnight. So she has had a proper meal.
That's brilliant.
And that rabbit was Konyan. Now, Konyanak, to give his full name, was a wild rabbit I picked up as a road casualty in 1997.
Yeah.
And he lived with me for 11 years. As he was so badly injured, I couldn't put him back out in the wild. So he moved into my house. He lived with another rabbit I had at the time called Lewin. And he was a free-range house rabbit because you couldn't shut him up in a cage.
No.
And he was an absolute trickster. And looking back, I didn't realise it at the time, but he was a hugely powerful shaman.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's come back. He came back briefly as Bunkin, who died the other night.
Yes.
And now he's back in spirit form to help this little one. What he told me was, this little rabbit has never been incarnate before.
Good God.
This is a first time around soul. She has no idea. She doesn't know even how to be alive.
That is...
She doesn't know how to do anything else.
I mean, I've never met anything like... I've never met a critter like that before. No.
It's actually quite a sort of big responsibility. He told me this and I sort of went, gulp.
Yeah, indeed. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh.
Learning how to be a rabbit, learning how to be incarnate.
Yeah.
She has Konyan on hand as a mentor.
Excellent.
I'll pop her back in her cage for now. And then I actually have a few more things he told me last night. So I'll come back and tell you that.
Yeah.
Hang on a minute while I pop her away safely.
Oh, little babe.
Come on, sweetie. There we go. There you are. Back in the cage. It's nice and clean. That's it. Okay, hang on a minute, and I'll give you a few more little bits of food. Okay.
You can hear it all going on in the background. But wow, what a thing. A first time incarnate beast. I've never met one before, not a beast. I have met a human who's never been around before, but I've never met a beast before.
Yeah, there
she is. Oh, look at those lop ears. Well, little darling.
You can see she's scanning round with her head.
Yeah.
That's because rabbits with red eyes don't have brilliant vision.
She does seem to hear very well.
She hears very well. She's very reactive to sound. Last night when I put the dogs away, she was exploring, and every time a dog moved in its bed, she would freeze and her ears would stick up. Now, in a wild rabbit, of course, they would have gone right up.
Yeah, right.
A lot of it, she can stick them this far, and she looks like a helicopter about to take off. So there she is.
Oh.
Now, I asked Konyan about this last night, and he told me that there is always an experienced soul ready to help when a new soul incarnates.
Well, thank all the gods for that.
But they can only step in when the new soul asks.
Yeah. And of course, the new soul doesn't necessarily know how to ask.
It doesn't know how to ask. But what happened last night, Konyan was able to come through and step in like that because I'd made a link to Emily.
Yeah.
And he has a link to me. So he was able to leapfrog through me into Emily. And that first link.
Well, people, how about that for a way of working? And this is sort of brand new to both of us, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's amazing. Yeah.
He also said the reason Emily has come through and incarnated now is because she's going to help me with the Animal Shamans course.
So watch out, guys.
I have to teach her how to be a shaman. And that she told me that, and I sat back and went, gulp.
I think I want to go out and be a cleaner, yeah.
Oh, so that's my big job.
Just a little.
Definitely.
And that's interesting too, because we were talking about, I'm really getting the trees course together now, and it's sort of motoring along with a couple of other jobs, including the novels. So it's like novel trees at the moment. But and it is motoring along, and it's sort of saying it wanted to come out at midwinter, which is when we had decided that that's when animal shamans should come out. And
Yes.
so we were sort of like, well, you know, and now this happens.
Yes.
I suspect you'll need slightly longer than 6 weeks to get this together, my dear.
I think I will. We might manage to get the first lessons up by Immel, I think.
I think so. Yes, because that's 2 seasons, and for a rabbit, that's quite a long time.
She'll be fully adult by then.
Yeah. And you're gonna have to run like stink to get anywhere.
I am. Yes.
It's a bit like the Red Queen was saying to Alice, you know, it takes all the running you can do to stay in the same place. And I know exactly what you mean.
It definitely does feel like that.
So no, you can handle it, girl. We will send energy to you too.
And I have Cognac. I can always ask for Cognac.
Indeed, yeah. So this could be a wonderful new course developed by Cognac the rabbit and interpreted by Fiona the person.
Yes, with the assistance of Emily.
Exactly. I'm sorry, Emily, I forgot you. Yes. So it's written by Cognac and Emily and transcribed by Fiona Duff.
Yes.
This is how it works, you know, in the old ways, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Absolutely, it is. Yes.
Oh my God.
Your cat.
No, wow. I mean, I saw her when she was in the car when you stopped and gave me a photograph, and I thought, whoa. You know, I mean, yes, she's obviously been moved and all that sort of thing, but she really looked like frozen rabbit.
Absolutely. Yes.
And it's like, ooh, right there. Now, tell me something else then.
Yes.
When she was born presumably to a mother rabbit, I mean, reasonably hard to do anything else. So how long do you think the person who bred her had kept her with mother rabbit?
She left her mother yesterday.
At 9 weeks.
At 9 weeks, which is good because a lot of breeders will separate them at 6 or 8 weeks.
Oh, I know. But there we go. We're not going into that at the moment. It just drives us both mad. So I wonder, I mean, this is something to ask.
You a photo from yesterday in the car.
Oh, do. Oh, I mean, look at that. It's like, let me out of here. My God, where are we?
Yeah, these are her little front feet. She's actually crammed so hard in there.
I know.
Feet are up the wall.
Yeah. Oh, you poor little baby.
Yeah.
So I wonder how long, and maybe Cognac can help with this. How long does a mother rabbit take to get her baby rabbits, any that are first incarnation? Because they won't all be first incarnations.
Oh, no. In fact, the breeder had noticed this little soul is different. The rest of the litter were brave and alert and up and doing things, and this poor thing has been cowering in the corner of her cage, refusing to talk to anyone.
Which is obviously why you had her.
She's looking for a very special home for her. She said if she couldn't find someone like me, she would have kept her.
Yeah.
She would keep her as long as it was needed. So that's a very good breeder.
That is a superb breeder. Yeah, absolutely.
We had a very long conversation on Messenger together before she agreed to let me have her.
Yeah, which is very good. Yeah.
And it was only because I told her all about Bunkin and Cognac when he first came to me that she thought I would do as a keeper for our family.
Yeah, that you could actually be Emily's guardian successfully and hopefully not make too many mistakes.
Well, I'll try.
We won't guarantee none at all. We're not that dumb.
I will do my best, and I will be listening to Cognac, and he will try and keep me straight.
Yeah.
And of course, I'll listen to Emily as well.
Indeed. I suspect 1 or 2 others are going to turn up to sort of heave in.
Yes.
Oh dear. I've just noticed what you're drinking from.
Yes.
Yeah. Bring it right up close if you can. Well, right. There we go. Yeah. Now, this has a little bit of a history too, hasn't it? Shall we have a quick diversion into mugs?
Yes.
So as you started it.
It was me who started it. My daughter is a computer nerd. And last year I gave her a mug for Christmas, which said, "You matter, unless you multiply yourself by the speed of light, in which case you energy." And I gave her this, and she took one look at it and said, "They've got the formula wrong. It should be multiply yourself by the speed of light squared," which is, of course, absolutely correct.
She's that sort of a nerd, yeah. It sort of goes, ah!
After all this, she then went, "Thank you for the mug." So I thought this year I'll get her a Schrodinger's cat mug. And I came across quite a lot of designs. This is a very good one.
Yeah, I do like that one. Yeah.
He wanted dead and alive.
Dead and alive, notice, not all. Yeah.
No, and alive, because this is Schrodinger's cat after all.
Exactly.
And I mentioned it to Ellen and Paul, and lo and behold, I've got the mug.
You've still got to get her one. We didn't get Michelle one.
No.
But we wanted
Michelle one for Christmas, but
we wanted one, you see, because we said, "Oh, we've got to have one." At least I said, "I've got to have one," and Paul said, "What have you got to have?" So I said, "A Schrödinger cat mug." He said, "I want one."
Yes.
So we asked Fiona for the link, which she gave us, and so we bought one. Well, we bought one each for us, and we thought, nah, she's got to have one herself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we sent it.
And it's an excellent mug.
It is a good mug, isn't it? I use mine quite often. It's just the right size, really.
Yes. And the tea, by the way, tastes excellent.
Yeah, well, it would do. Yeah. That kind of thing. It just improves the tea mug. Anyway, sort of Schrödinger's cat. If you don't know Schrödinger's cat, it's on YouTube everywhere. And it's a totally brilliant, totally trickstery, inside out story on the lines of the sound of one hand clapping. Yes.
If you give an absolute answer to that question, you are wrong.
Absolutely. Yes.
It's a classic philosophy thought experiment.
It is, and it's Schrödinger both laughing at, because he did have a sense of humor, and actually putting the whole concept of quantum in a story, which he does.
Yes.
And so it really is fun. Anyway, and it's not horrid, honestly. You know, people.
It's only a thought experiment.
No, and people read the thing and they think, "Oh, he wouldn't. Oh, what a horrible man! He does that to cats." He actually adored cats. He had cats.
Yes.
And so no, it is nothing. But it's a really good experiment. And one of every physicist's favorites, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I frequently experience Schrödinger's rabbit when I take a rabbit to the vet.
Yes.
Rabbits are quite fragile emotionally. And a sudden shock can cause them to have a heart attack. So every time I have to take a rabbit to the vet, I put them in the box, and then I have to drive the car and not look at the box. And I don't know if that rabbit is okay or not till I get out at the other end.
And that was a little bit like Emily yesterday.
Oh, absolutely.
And then Emily, as we've discovered she is, I just learning that she's alive and she has a spirit and a soul.
Yes.
And that's a bit this sort of the cat. But let's not get too philosophical, all right? Probably need more time.
I have a lot of energy work to do with Emily.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Which has improved massively since we started.
Oh, she has. You could see that with her just sat on you. And then looking at her, that she's actually looking around the cage. She's not just, like this.
But she is. One of the things her breeder mentioned to me was that she actually had her vet checked as a little one, even smaller than this, because she found the rabbit was freezing so much, you can actually just walk up and put your finger on her eyeball.
Oh, my God.
And so she was quite worried that maybe she was completely blind.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
She was. Her eyes react to light. And as you can see, she was looking around the cage there.
Yeah.
So it's actually an extreme freeze reaction.
Yeah.
She's so terrified.
Yeah.
She can't even blink.
Yeah.
All her reflexes just total freezing.
This is going to be really, really interesting as we follow this through.
Yes, I'm keeping a diary.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think
So we will regularly update people on how Emily comes along.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have to definitely do this because it is so interesting, and I've never seen anybody write this up before. I know it's happened. Yes, I know, but
well, people must have met first time round incarnations.
Well, I've met people who have.
Yeah,
I've met a human one.
I've never met a human one.
Oh yeah, that was fairly weird. But
Yeah.
they're not like Emily. I mean, people just aren't like rabbits. They don't freeze. They're more stupid.
But it is quite a responsibility, I think.
Yeah, it is.
To be guardian to this little soul who doesn't even know how to be.
Yeah. So
it will be quite something.
Definitely watch this space. I have a cat, it appears. I might even have a cat on the table in a minute, but we'll see. So yes, it definitely.
I cannot imagine what a first time round incarnation cat would be like.
Probably another freezer.
Quite possible.
Yeah. Because if they really do feel threatened, they get under something and down and they don't move. And I wonder, I was watching this glorious program by the Woodland Trust, little zoo conference. Now, do you remember Fingles Wood and Fingles Bridge on Dartmoor?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they have dormice there, and it's about 4 or 5 years now that they've had the woods and been doing it. And they've been doing a real super dormouse project. So they did a Zoom on them last night. It'll be up on YouTube sooner or later. I'll make sure everybody knows when it's there. It's a very, very good program. And one of the things they're still working on is hibernation and how the dormice do it.
Mm.
Well, number one is this incredible thing called torpor.
Yes.
Which we all sort of vaguely know about. But they turn their systems down. It's like a volume control.
Yes.
And they turn it down.
Yes.
They don't turn themselves off. They turn it down.
Their temperature drops and their heartbeat slows and their respiration slows and they just sink into themselves.
And they've actually got films, little videos which they've managed with Nest cameras or cameras in the Nest boxes of dormice that are playing around and diddly 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 and are gorgeous, and then ones that are going into hibernation and they're slow motion, as one of the women said. And then when they go. And so that's really interesting, but they've gone a lot further than that, because I think people sort of think that dormice have they've got the grass bundles that they've hibernated in. So they were showing these little grass bundles about as big as your fist. And people think that they're up in the trees somewhere. They're not. They're down in the leaf litter. Now, initially, this sounds bloody hell. Something's going to tread on them or eat them. So they've found where there are 1 or 2 dormouse nests over the winter, and they put trail cams up and watched, and they've seen badgers and foxes. They step right over them. And why is because not only do they turn all the metabolism stuff off, they turn their scent off.
They do, yes.
And that is sort of like, wow.
Yes.
And so, a fox would go through the leaves and that, and he'll touch the nest, but it doesn't smell of anything anyway.
It doesn't smell of mice, it smells of grass.
Yeah, exactly.
Foxes don't eat grass, particularly not dry grass.
No.
It's absolutely incredible, but they do it.
They do. And I think probably quite a lot of animals may do this. But we'll have to see what research says.
I do know they've done studies on bears and found that bears do all the other things, but they don't turn their scent off.
They don't turn their scent off, no.
But then you'd have to be pretty stupid to walk up to a sleeping bear and attack it.
Possibly if you were another large male bear.
But they would be asleep as well.
Exactly.
So for bears, who are huge super predators, the smell is actually a protective thing. Whereas for the dormouse, which is small and edible and crunchy,
it's definitely
opposite.
No. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, I wonder if rabbits turn that down as well when they do the freeze, because you say then their digestion goes.
They shut down their digestion, but their heart rate increases massively.
Ah. Yes.
Because
it's a flight and fright.
It's an adrenaline reaction.
Yeah.
For rabbits, it's definitely fight or flight, with freeze as an option. So you either freeze in place. You see this in wild rabbits. You'll see them freeze on the ground. And in fact, I've had lurchers and whippets walk up to a rabbit who's frozen in the lamplight, and they will actually walk up to it and go, I don't know what this is, and poke it with their nose. Because they can't quite believe that it's just there.
And it's not running.
And of course, I mean, Wicket absolutely cracked me up the first time she did this, because she poked it with her nose and the rabbit exploded.
Yes.
Of course, the dog was an absolute astonishment, which gave the rabbit a 30-yard lead. So it was down a hole before she was sort of like, oh my God, it is dinner.
So whereupon you were rolling on the grass, yeah.
Well, it wasn't important to me that she caught the rabbit.
No.
I was curious to see what she would do. But my survival didn't depend on catching a rabbit for dinner. Neither did hers, because we always had tins of dog food in the cupboard.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely hysterically funny, and totally unimportant in another sense. Yeah. But as a defensive technique, you can see how that works, because a naive predator, or even quite an experienced predator, a lot of cats will walk up to a frozen animal. I quite believe it's still there. And when it does move, the predator is still going, I'm not quite sure. Oh my God, it's gone.
And it's literally backwards. I've seen Karen do this. You get a mouse that's absolutely perfectly still on the floor, and she,
But because their adrenaline is running at high levels, the prey item can just go boom out of there.
Literally, a foot in the air, just like that. Yeah. And I mean, Karen doesn't poke with her nose. She normally sort of pats to the paw.
Well, dogs don't tend to pat things with their feet, whereas cats do.
Cats do. Yeah. But I've seen it, and she's literally, vertical takeoff instantly, 2 feet backwards.
Yes, well, that 2 feet backwards by a predator, which is about what Wicket did.
Yeah.
Plus, instant 0 to 100 miles an hour from the whatever it was they were about to eat.
Yeah.
Means that a huge, great big lead, and dinner is out of sight.
And also because the adrenaline shit is going on, the cat or Wicket's head, Cullen's or Wicket's head is like, oh my god, a bit.
And they're in the startle phase, whereas the adrenaline run that's going through the prey animal
is right.
All their senses are tuned right up to the maximum. They're fairly humming with ready to move. All that they'll be hearing, the wind over a blade of grass.
Yeah. And their focus is on the actual getting away, whereas the predator is like, what the hell's that?
Yes. So it's incredibly effective for getting out of trouble.
Yeah.
Emily just seems to have hers turned up to maximum at the moment.
Yeah. Well, possibly a couple of points down from maximum now.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Yes. She is still just sitting quietly in the corner of her cage, looking out the window. So
that's better than hiding in the bottom.
Absolutely, yes.
So we are moving.
She's relaxed. Her ears are down. She is moving from time to time. So she's much better than she was yesterday.
Yeah.
So hopefully we will slowly, over a few days. No, you may not go and talk to her.
No, because you are definitely predator as far as she's concerned, and terrifying.
Well, she is predator. She's a Wicket. She's a predator rabbit. She's currently doing the I don't know what that is, and I'd like to see it.
Well, you can't. We know you, Wicket. We know. Yeah, we do.
She's been lying on the sofa next to me, watching very carefully and being very good and not interfering. So that's excellent.
Yeah. Mind you, she was getting the hang of it with bunking, wasn't she?
Yeah. Yes, but this is different.
Oh, yes. It's still sort of like, there's a sort of like, is this another one like the last one that Mum wants and that I can't chase?
Yes.
Yes, Wicket, you've got it.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
She's a good little girl. It's a big ask for a dog like a Whippet that's bred for centuries to chase things, and then you suddenly say you can chase things, but not that thing. And it's really quite a big thing for her to get her head around. And much as I love her, she's not the brightest dog in the world. So she's doing
that. Me too. I mean, she is a darling, and I've known her since she was a whup and all this sort of thing, but she, you know, her IQ test.
She was behind the door and handed out the brain cells. Yeah.
Whereas
a bit thick.
Her cousin sister Rocket is sort of like IQ of 210.
She's got Wicket's brains as well as her own.
Oh, she really has too.
Oh dear. Emily just rearranged all her feet, and Wicket is now doing a perfect statue of attentive dog next to me, staring pointedly. I saw it move.
Come on then. Here comes another predator, I think. Yes, we have another predator. This is my predator. Hello, sweetheart. Yes, I know. I did say we would go out, but then I forgot that we were Zooming. So, oh, look, that was a good place. Yeah.
Well, I shall have to go out again after this as well. So Abe has come in a bit lame this morning.
Oh,
no. I can't find anything wrong. He's probably slipped and just pulled a muscle.
Yeah, he probably has.
There's a lot of mud. All the rain in the last few days. Wicket, if you jump on the table, there will be trouble. You are not a cat.
Whereas this cat, as everybody can see, is definitely going past me. With the sort of, you know, stopping Wicket doing things, and Rocket to some extent, all that's easier. I mean, I have the same sort of issues with Kellen, because I would really prefer that she did not kill birds. Well, anyway, songbirds. And she was a survivor. She was thrown out because she got pregnant, and she managed to survive for weeks, had her kittens, and then fed them in the wild or in the feral before Cats Protection got her. So she obviously had to keep herself fed in order to keep her milk coming. And so she's total survivor, really good at it.
Dinner.
Exactly. And, you know, birds were dinner.
Yes.
Part of dinner, and mice were dinner, rats were dinner, scavenging was dinner, anything she could get was dinner because I need it. And so then she came to me and we had lots of long chats. We are getting better in the, I'm going to possibly jinx everything, but I am touching the wood of this table madly. It's quite a long time now since we've had a bird.
Yes. And
I do check in the garden, and unless she's becoming totally brilliant and she only gets birds out in the fields around, which I don't think she's quite at yet, she hasn't had a bird. She's allowed mice.
There's another side to this, and that is that at this time of year, all those naive brand new baby birds have wised up a bit.
They have, yes. I mean, the fledgling chick time is like, yes, I know you liked it too. You heard that. But I've seen them, and they sit in the yard, and she sits there and going, I don't believe it. Mummy's put a fake bird there, but it does smell right. And they still walk around, and she's literally walked up to one and just gone while it sat on the ground. And there's nothing I could do. And I thought, well, if it's only got that amount of brains, it's probably not worth.
Well, this is natural selection.
Yeah. Yes. And if it wasn't her, it would be one of the magpies or a fox or something else that's around. We've got weasels and stoats too, so they would definitely help. Yes. But she is getting better, and we're getting to a stage where we actually don't bring live prey in so much. Kellen had kittens, as I said. Kellen is a very old, wise cat. And she looked at me and she says, that's a big sort of kitten that's the wrong shape and smell. I'd better teach it.
Yes.
So just like she would with her kittens, she would bring me a live mouse and say, here you are, chase it.
Yes.
Which
we took in a pair of what had been feral kittens when we lived down in Wales. And Flotty was this enormous, great big, huge, great big black and white, long-haired tomcat. And Jetson was this tiny little black one. As we were saying earlier about the freeze response in cat, she spent her first 3 days with us behind the panelling in the utility room.
Yeah.
And then came out and was perfectly friendly. I've had a kitten spend 3 days stuffed inside a riding hat before now.
Yeah.
Once they settle in, they're fine. But Jet was a bit slow getting hunting because she was quite small. And then one day she brought in her first piece of actual running around furriness. But she picked a shrew.
Oh dear.
And she brought it in the lounge and she was trying to play with it in the lounge. And we're like, that's not a mouse, it's got a short tail. Then perhaps she bit the tail off. And then it turned around and bit her foot as she was trying to pat it. Shrews are pretty good predators on their own account.
They're not just grain eaters. They eat lots of very small animals as well.
They are carnivores.
They
don't eat grain at all.
No.
They're also the only poisonous British mammals.
Yes. Which is one reason why
this shrew turned around, bit the kitten hard on the foot. The kitten levitates for the screen, as you would. I've been with my shrew, it's not nice.
Yeah, it's not nice, no.
And she sort of landed 3 feet back, stared at the shrew. The shrew stares at her, pretty much going, go on then.
I know, I've seen it. Yeah, I've been there.
And she sort of looked at this shrew and then she turned around and walked out. And we could hear her meowing outside.
Yeah, complain.
And then she walked back in with her brother in tow and literally went, it bit me. So Flotty killed it. And he was definitely a mighty hunter. He actually killed a stoat once, which is impressive in cat range.
Karen hasn't made it to a stoat, but she has killed a weasel, and that's impressive.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really appreciate the fact that he killed a stoat because he brought the smell home. He didn't bring the stoat home.
Yes,
he brought the smell home. A dead stoat is pretty vile. So
yeah,
and we did find the stoat outside.
Thank God for that. It didn't come in.
Yes.
I found the weasel under my bed.
Yes. Flotty had other adventures. He fell in the diesel tank at next doors.
Oh no! Don't tell me about that. It was horrible.
It was horrible, but he came home absolutely plastered in diesel, and we had to scrub him in the sink with fairy liquid.
That must have been lovely.
It took 3 people.
Yes.
1 to hold the cat, and 2 to do the scrubbing while fending off the cat.
Yes. Yeah.
He forgave us for that. He fell in the slurry tank in the next door's farm as well. Came home absolutely plastered in cow slurry. And without his claws, where he'd managed to climb his way up the concrete.
God.
So actually worn his claws off trying to do it.
Oh, poor little soul. Yeah.
He was an adventurous chap. But yes, that was so funny when Jet literally went out and fetched her big brother to deal with this animal that bit her.
I've seen that done. I mean, Kellen's had one, and it went for her, and she went like this, you know. But one of them bit when we had Star and Goldie, and Goldie was sort of a tiny little, you know, 7-pound cat on a fat day, and Star was an enormous Maine Coon, not fat but enormous. A bit like Wicket, actually. He was slightly missing in some of the synapse department. And but Goldie was like Rocket. She was all there. Anyway, she brought a shrew in, and they used to play together. And so she put it down, and so the Star went to put his paw on it, and it bit him. And whereupon he reversed, and she looked at him and went, "Wimp."
Become a mighty hunter in later years, but she was a bit of a slow start.
No, Morningstar never really became a mighty hunter because he just sort of didn't get various things.
But it was noticeable that Jet never was a small animal killer.
Mm.
She was a bird cat.
Yeah.
On the grounds that birds don't bite back, I suppose.
Well,
It's interesting how these formative experiences can affect them.
Yes. And what they get used to, because it just made me think of wolves and Jamie, and cannot remember the bloke's name, with the wolf pack in Idaho.
Yes.
They lived with them for 7 years, literally in the mountains. It's an amazing. You can get. I'll try and get a link up.
They live as wolves with the wolves.
Literally.
And the wolves treated them as wolves.
Yep. And allowed them in and all this kind of thing. And anyway, they had, of course, to feed them, because I mean, the enclosure was vast, you know, but it was only the home range of a wolf pack, not the hunting range, which is enormous.
Yeah.
And they fed them. And usually they fed them with elk or deer. In fact, that's what they'd always done. And then one day they were coming home in the truck from getting some supplies, human supplies in, and they found a roadkill cow on the road. So they thought, oh, well, that'll do. We'll heave it in the back of the truck. They did. They put it in with the wolves, and the wolves would not touch it because they never had.
Yeah.
Their parents had never told them that cow was okay. They told them that deer was okay. So they ate deer.
Absolutely. And you see the same thing with ferrets.
Yeah.
If you're bringing up baby ferrets, you need to teach them what to eat before they're 6 months old.
Because
if your ferret has only ever eaten cat biscuits,
it'll only ever eat cat biscuits.
Some of them will actually starve to death rather than eat meat.
Yeah.
Because it's not what they were told to eat.
Yeah.
Which is why I made sure all my baby ferrets had plenty of variety in their diet. So they will eat anything.
Yeah.
Literally.
And we saw it again when we were on Exmoor with that little Dartmoor foal, Exmoor foal. He was stuck in this, he got himself into this sort of small sheep corral.
Yeah.
And couldn't find his way out. And it all turned out all right in the end, but we were trying to lure him, and you know, how much tape or string or whatever we got in our pockets, could we do anything? How tame was he? But he was what, about 6 or 8 months?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, they come.
Yeah.
Wasn't having anything to do with this.
And we were offering apple and things like that. Never had apple, you know. And but we managed in the end, so it all worked out. But it was like, he really didn't know. I mean, he wasn't a first incarnation foal, so he hadn't got Emily's problems. But he was like, I'm not doing anything I don't know.
Yeah.
And
one of the very nice thing. Yeah. I mean, my horses here have been brought up with me. They've been brought up by humans. That they're used to trusting what the human gives them is food.
Yeah.
So when I'm picking up eggs, I've had this with both George and Dancer. They're like, you've got something in your hand, it must be edible. And I'm like, you don't want that. And they're like, yes, we do. So I gave them an egg. Some horses will eat eggs. It has to be said. It's like deer. Some deer will eat meat. Some horses will eat eggs. But certainly when I gave one to George, he took it, he went crunch, and he went, oh my God, what was that? And then he spent ages with his head down, standing with his tail towards me, dribbling it out onto the floor, just trying to get rid of it. Dancer was even more spectacular, since she insisted on taking it out of my hand, snapped it out of my hand, scrunched it up, and then did exactly the same. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Throwing her head up and down to try and get rid of it out of her mouth faster. There was egg everywhere. So they now actually, both of them have learned to actually sniff what I'm holding before they try and eat it.
Well, that's probably a good lesson, yeah. Which, of course, is the sort of thing that mum gives a baby animal when they're there.
You don't want that.
No.
You don't want that rabbit. I says, I have eaten rabbit. I like rabbit.
No, you wouldn't like that one. It's horrid.
That rabbit is special. Yes, rabbit is a friend. She may be a friend in the distance, because I don't entirely trust you, rabbit. No, they're just not without supervision. They're just not the same as our old Alsatian used to be. There's my then husband, my first husband, used to love. Well, he was ever so good with animals.
and he loved mice and gerbils and hamsters and things like that. And so there were usually some around the flat, you know, as well as the dog. And it being a sort of rather huge black wolfy job, we thought, well, we'd better sort of get this right. He was very, very bright. We better get this right because we do not want him eating them.
Yes.
And somewhere or another, and I will try and look for it one day, we have a picture of large black Alsatian lying out on the ground, on the floor like this, covered in white mice.
Yes. Quite well. We had a German Shepherd, and he was the same.
Yeah, yeah. And they do learn what, you know, that's mum and dad's friend, that's my friend.
Yes.
And he actually, when we used to go back to see my dad, and my dad had this very small little terrier. And so we would take the cage full of hamsters and mice and gerbil along as well. Parents didn't mind. And that would sort of like go under the sideboard or something like that. And the terrier, of course, was like, dinner. And so the Alsatian lay in front of it.
Yes. And they will.
German
Shepherds like Alsatians.
Yeah,
but
same thing. And he just lay in front of the cage. And no. And when the terrier came up and was like,
yes. I don't think you can do that with a whippet. I have done it with a terrier.
Yes.
My old terrier actually lived. I had a very chaotic household for a while. In a flat I lived in Aberdeen. We had a ferret living in the bathroom. We had my daughter's pet rats who were, I did build them a cage, but they broke out of it almost instantly. After which they became distressingly free-range rats. I had Konyan, the free-range rabbit, running around the house. I had Nguyen, his mate, who obviously had to be free-range as well. And I had a Jack Russell Terrier.
Oh, she was gorgeous.
She was gorgeous. She was a working Jack Russell Terrier. She was. I took her out with the ferrets, and we cleared hen houses of rats, and she'd go out and point rabbits and push them out of bushes for the lurchers. And proper working country terrier. And I moved her to a city flat and asked her to live with rats and rabbits running around the floor in the flat. And she did.
Yeah, she did. Yeah.
She would sit and watch them, but without trying to move. She was quite relaxed and just watch them. And then I'd take her out for a walk down by the river, and she'd bring me home a rat. Yeah. The number of times, I mean, within 3 days of me moving into Aberdeen city centre, I was walking home with a dead rabbit hanging in my hand and all the city dwellers looking at me. You'd think I'd bludgeoned the poor creature to death myself. My dog grabbed it. Yes. Yes. I said, what are you going to do with a dead rabbit? I'm not going to waste that poor animal.
No. So you know, you and the dog and the ferret shared it, and your daughter.
But she did know the difference between a wild animal and a tame animal.
Yeah. You did have a picture of her once, though. I think she'd sat on the sofa or the bed or something, and the rabbit, one of the rabbits, got up beside her, and it was right beside her, and she was there going, "Mom, there's a rabbit."
I never got a photo of that
rabbit. You never got a photo. Never mind.
That was the day the ferret managed to escape from the bathroom.
Right.
Now you cannot train a ferret not to chase rabbits.
No.
And the rabbits knew perfectly well that the ferret was going to eat them if it caught them. And the first thing I knew of this ferret being loose was Konyan, the wild rabbit, who was normally seen by strangers as a set of whiskers sticking out from under a bookshelf, was suddenly on the bed right up behind the dog, who's going, oh my God, it's right there. What do I do? And then the ferret bumbled in and I picked him up. And the dog and the ferret never got that close again.
No.
Not once.
So, I mean, stuff went on then, didn't it?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not possible for a human to train a ferret, but a dog and a ferret
I picked the ferret up and moved straight back to her cage.
Well, you did, but even so, it seems like, you know, the communication went there, you know, the guardian's not going to like it.
I'm not sure if it was that or if Konyan was just throwing the dog to the ferret.
Maybe it could have been. Yeah. You have this, it's bigger.
I'll sit behind this. You can eat this first. Or it may have been, I know you and that ferret are friends. She won't come up on the bed and attack you. I'll just sit behind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was quite smart enough for any and all of those.
Yeah.
He was a very, very bright rabbit.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to pack up because I've got to go off and feed the vampires in a minute.
Yes.
The doctor wants some blood off me to check my calcium so that I can have some incredible medicine, that sort of thing. So I better get off and do that. What an amazing animal thing we've done. Right. Well, I hope everybody enjoys it. And I'm off. You're off.
I'm off.
Love to everybody. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.